In November 1864, 60,000 men began walking south from Atlanta, Georgia. They carried rifles. They carried torches. They carried the orders of a general who had decided that winning a war meant destroying the enemy's will to fight it, not just their armies, but everything that fed those armies, everything that clothed them, everything that believed in them. Behind them, Atlanta burned. Ahead of them, 300 miles of the American South. The world had never seen anything like what was about to happen. His name was William Tecumseh Sherman, and what followed would change the way the world understood war forever. He was born February 8, 1820 in Lancaster, Ohio. His father named him Tecumseh, after the great Shawnee warrior chief, a man of extraordinary strategic brilliance. His father admired that kind of mind. His father died when Sherman was 9 years old. A family friend, a prominent Ohio senator named Thomas Ewing, took Sherman into his home, added William to his name, and raised him as his own. In 1836, Sherman entered the United States Military Academy at West Point. He graduated 6th in his class, showed genuine ability, served in the Mexican-American War, showed competence but not greatness. Then the military life ended, not by his choice, but by circumstance. And without war, Sherman was lost. He tried banking in San Francisco. The bank failed. He tried law in Kansas. He had no clients. He tried real estate. He failed. The man who would become the most feared general in America spent his 30s failing at everything that was not war. Then, in 1859, he found something that half fit. He became superintendent of a Louisiana military academy, what would later become Louisiana State University. He was good at it: structure, command, order. The military mind applied to education. He was almost content. Then the southern states began to secede. Sherman watched Louisiana prepare to leave the Union, and he could not stay. He resigned his position. He wrote to his Louisiana colleagues, "You people of the South don't know what you are doing. This country will be drenched in blood." He went back north. He went back to the Union, and he went back to war. The early years nearly ended him. At Bull Run, July 1861, disaster. The Union Army shattered and retreating. Sherman trying to hold the line against the collapse and failing. At Shiloh, April 1862, surprised completely at dawn, Confederate forces erupting from the tree line into his sleeping camp, his men dying before they could reach their weapons. 2 horses shot beneath him, his hand wounded, his reputation bleeding out in the newspapers that followed. The press called him unstable. One headline declared him insane. His wife received letters suggesting he be relieved of command. Sherman himself wrote to his brother that he had been passed over by events, by men, by his own failures. He was 42 years old. He had nothing. Then Ulysses S. Grant arrived. Grant saw what the newspapers could not. He saw a man who did not break under pressure, who learned from every mistake, who adapted faster than anyone around him, who was willing to face the brutal mathematics of war without flinching. Grant trusted him completely. Sherman trusted Grant completely. It was the most important military friendship in American history, and together they ended the Civil War. Stop right here, drop in the comments. Was Sherman a war hero or a war criminal? There is no wrong answer. I want this debate. Drop it below right now. The summer of 1864, Sherman's armies drove south through Georgia, fighting Johnston and then Hood in a brutal campaign across 100 miles of difficult terrain. On September 2nd, 1864, Atlanta fell, the railroad hub of the Confederacy, the industrial heart of the Southern war effort. Sherman held it for 2 months. Then he ordered the military and industrial infrastructure burned. Residents who remained heard the explosions through the night. He did not stop there. He wrote to Grant, "I can make Georgia howl." On November 15th, 1864, the March to the Sea began. 300 miles, 60,000 soldiers, moving in 4 columns through the heart of the Confederacy, a front 60 miles wide, advancing 15 miles a day. They destroyed everything that fed the Confederate war machine. Railroad tracks ripped from the ground, heated in bonfires, then twisted around trees. Sherman's neckties, the soldiers called them. Warehouses burned, plantations stripped, supply depots obliterated. Sherman understood something that generals before him had refused to accept. Armies don't fight wars. Nations fight wars. And to end a war, you have to convince a nation, not just its army, that continuing is no longer survivable. He was not burning Georgia out of hatred. He was burning it out of mathematics. The march freed tens of thousands of enslaved people as it moved. They followed the army, hundreds, then thousands, moving in the columns alongside the soldiers. Sherman kept moving. He did not stop for anything. He reached Savannah, Georgia, on December 21, 1864, and accepted the city's surrender without a siege. He telegraphed President Lincoln, "I beg to present you, as a Christmas gift, the city of Savannah." Lincoln wept when he read it. The Confederacy collapsed 4 months later. Sherman called what he did total war. Not the war of armies against armies, the war of a nation against a nation's ability to continue fighting. He had decided, coldly, deliberately, without apology, that making war terrible was the fastest way to make it stop. "War is cruelty," he said, "and you cannot refine it." He believed that a short, brutal war saved more lives than a long, restrained one. History gave him little room to argue otherwise. The Confederacy that had survived 4 years of conventional fighting collapsed within months of Sherman's march beginning. After the war, Sherman succeeded Grant as commanding general of the United States Army. Politicians asked him repeatedly to run for president. He refused every time. When the Republican Party moved to nominate him in 1884 without asking, Sherman sent the most famous political refusal in American history. "If nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve." He had seen what war produced. He had no desire to govern its aftermath. He spent his final years writing his memoirs, a book of extraordinary honesty about the cost and the method of what he had done. He named the chapters of war without euphemism. He made no apologies for the march. He said he had done what had to be done. William Tecumseh Sherman died February 14, 1891. At his funeral in New York City, through cold February rain, the city turned out to honor the general who had marched through Georgia. Among the mourners stood Confederate General Joseph Johnston, 84 years old. The man Sherman had defeated across 100 miles of Georgia campaign, and then shown extraordinary mercy at the war's surrender. Johnston stood in the rain with his hat removed. Someone told him to cover his head. He was an old man in the cold. He would catch his death. Johnston looked at them and said, "If I were in his place and he were standing here in mine, he would not put on his hat." Johnston died of pneumonia 11 days later. The destroyer and the destroyed, honoring each other across the line that Sherman's fire had drawn through history. War is hell. He built that hell deliberately. He walked through it himself. He made the calculation that others refused to make, and he ended the war that no one else could end. If Sherman's story stayed with you, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Because the next figure we cover didn't fight a war. He built the weapon that ended one, and then spent the rest of his life wishing he hadn't. The guilt he carried would haunt every room he ever entered afterward. That episode is coming very soon. Don't miss it.